Welcome to the Parks, Arts, Education, and Equality Subcommittee. Today is March 22nd, and I am calling this meeting to order. I have no cards for call to the public, hoping that I did, only because it's a welcoming to hear from the public. I have minutes of the meetings. Do I have a motion for the minutes of February 22nd, 2017?
So moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. I have consent actions, items 2 through 3. Does anybody have, do I have a motion through items 2 through 3?
Motion to approve items 2 and 3.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. For information only, are items 4 through 5. 4 is the Head Start monthly report. 5 is the review of Parks and Recreation Board agenda. Does anybody want any updates on items 4 through 5? That's a no. Okay. We are on item 6, artist fabrication and installation contract for the North 32nd Street Improvement Public Art Project. Welcome, Gail.
Good morning, Vice Mayor, members of the subcommittee. Ed Lebo from the Public Art Department and I are here to talk about a fabrication contract for a project on 32nd Street. Ed?
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor, members of the committee. This is a project that has been underway for about 1.5 years. The artist that was recommended for this is Ann Morton. In fact, a plug, she has work in the gallery right next door, the gallery at City Hall, so please come down and see that. But Ann is an artist who worked with the community to develop this project. It extends from Shea Road, or Shea Boulevard, all the way up to Bell Road. And it was part of a larger project to try and understand how 32nd Street could be retrofit really over the years to enhance its pedestrian amenities and to make it a much nicer street. And what Ann encountered, and also the community has been looking at, are really some of the constraints there. You have a large street, you also have very tight sidewalks, and a lot of utility conflicts along the way. So what can be done with this kind of setting in the way of adding artwork? Ann began to look at the poles. Just as we have along Central Avenue, there are medallions and decorative items attached to the poles. The poles come with some real engineering limitations. And what Ann was inspired by was the way monarch butterflies in their migration also tend to glom onto trees and other kinds of things. And it reminded her of the way people's hands actually spread out. And so she came up with this idea of getting the community involved in developing templates for handprints. And so the idea was that she would send out and hold workshops to get handprints, and she got prints of 1,300 individuals' hands in that area of the city. She had workshops at Shea Middle School and also workshops at Paradise Valley Community College. So she had a lot of help from the community side of things. And then she thought, what if we took these hands, turned them into Core 10 steel, and then attached them to cladding on the poles. So these would be attached to sleeves that wrap around the poles so that if ever the poles need to be changed out, we could take these off and add them to the new poles over time so they would not be lost. The material is a Core 10 steel. That's a self-sealing rusting steel. It's used in a lot of architectural applications, and the reason she chose it was durability. She wanted to make sure that there would be no long-term maintenance issues related to the works themselves, and also that the steel would hold up to monsoons and other kinds of things. So this was the design she came up with. It would cover 30 poles from Shea Boulevard all the way up to Bell Road, and these would be on the east side of the street. The reason for that is that the city owns all of the poles on the east side. Utility company owns all of the poles on the west side, so we could treat only the east side poles. And I think, and part of the community discussion about these works is that this would be the beginning of what I know the community hopes would be many other improvements that occur through that corridor over time. So the proposal, the request, is for a $135,000 fabrication contract. And the fabricator would be Smithcraft, right here in Phoenix, to produce the works. And one other thing I would add is that the poles, the cladding would start about 11 feet in height above the pavement and extend up to about 22 feet. So the cladding itself with the spiraling hands of community members would be about 11 feet in total length. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? Well, thank you, Ed and Gil. Of course, we're adding art within our boundaries and with our public participation, also in community participation, which I feel is very important. One question: how many poles?
There are 30 poles.
30.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as I said, they're spread out along that entire corridor.
That's great. That's very creative in the sense of I would never thought of the hands and being able to come up with that type of vision. So my kudos to Anne. Do I have a motion for item 6?
Motion to approve item 6.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Item number 7, economic impact analysis for Margaret T. Hance Park.
Good morning, Vice Mayor, members of the subcommittee. Today, we're here to talk about the economic impact analysis study for Margaret T. Hance Park. In the audience, we have two of our partners, Larry Lazarus from the Phoenix Community Alliance and Louise Roman from the Hance Park Conservancy. And together, the three of us are trying as groups to make sure that we can improve Hance Park for the future. And this will help us get to that end. So the purpose of the economic impact study is to really be able to help us inform donors and sponsors about the value of any kind of donation or sponsorship that might help us fulfill the vision and the dream to have Hance Park fulfilled to the $118 million goal that we're trying to get to. It could also help us accelerate development in and around the park area. And again, we're hoping to use this study to get to those ends. We did receive 3 proposals. The RFP was issued back in November. The group that received the highest score from the panel was Hunden Strategic Partners. Again, this, if you remember, this is the master plan design, the overview of the entire park. So the next steps we would have is once we actually get approval to move forward, it's going to take a couple of weeks to negotiate the contract itself. The study will take about 12 weeks. It will be $44,000. We've got a not to exceed 50, but we think it's going to be about $44,000. 3PI would be appropriate to use for this study, and we expect the study to be accomplished if we move forward today in August. So with that, we recommend that Hunden Strategic Partners get the award.
I have a card on item 7 and Larry Lazarus. No, not to speak. I wanted you to speak, Larry, but that's okay. I wasn't reading right. I should have known by the color too. In favor? And so do I have a motion for item 7? Councilman Nowakowski?
I'd like to make a motion to approve staff's recommendation for item number 7, and also thank all those individuals that for years have been working to really make Margaret Hance Park the park of the city of Phoenix. Now that Block 23 is being used for other means, we have a place that we can gather in downtown Phoenix. And the first event major event we're gonna have on a national scale would be the Final Four event. And we've had all kinds of regional events and local events there, and it's just going to be the park that for the gathering of Phoenix. So I'd just like to thank you all for your hard work and bringing not just the surrounding community, but the whole city together to make this into a great park.
Second.
All those in favor?
Oh, I was going to make a
Okay,
comment.
sorry.
I was just going to make a simple comment on this and the value of the parks. people don't realize, I just had this conversation with an individual just over the weekend. We were talking about it because I like to hike. May not look like it, but I do like to hike. But it's one of the few places that we can go as a public, that our families can go, that it's just not going to cost you. I mean, there's always a cost to everything. Nothing's free. It comes from tax dollars, right? But families can actually go there for free. And they can park there, they can hike there, they do family events there. And when Councilman Nowakowski was talking about the Final Four, how many people can afford that? You can't. I mean, you can't even go to a ball game right now where it used to cost you just maybe, you know, a few bucks a ticket. You can't go there for less than $300 or $400. And how many families can afford that? They can't. But one of the things that they can do is enjoy their family time together is at a park. They can have parties there. There's a lot of things that they can do there. That's one part of it. The other part of it deals with the fact that, and the importance, and it has nothing to do with my district or the fact that Michael and I like each other, we're friends and stuff like that, but the fact of the matter is that these downtown parks in particular, Councilwoman Pastor, Councilwoman Gallegos, Councilman Nowakowski, that is where the trend is going now with population. If you look at the millennials, you look at individuals, they're all going into the downtowns. It's happening across the country. And those cities that have been able to promote that open space. The open space is critical. People got to understand that. It's not the walls anymore. It's really where people can go and feel like they're in an open area. We're human, we're social animals. But that open space in the downtown areas are critical to the economic survival of those downtown areas. Now, we've had a huge impetus. People like Phil Gordon and others started Skipper Insa kind of started it, but Phil Gordon really closed the deal and made it happen in the downtown area. And then the city's just been building on that because you've seen major investment occurring. But they're coming here because of the fact that they feel like they can be in places that their families can go to too. It's just something that you have to do. And it sounds unusual, someone come from the outside to say we need to focus on Nowakowski, Pastor, and Gallegos district, because sometimes they're not always happy with me on some of my positions. But the fact of the matter is, that is what you have to do right now. I mean, it's not that any other area is not important, but if you really want to create that economic growth and that economic development and that type of individuals who are coming to these areas, you have to do those things. And so, I mean, I've had people complain to me about the cost of this and how much it's going to cost and where the money's going to come from. And I totally get it. The problem is that this is the type of investment, I mean, better than investing, through these GIPLETs and others. And I know we see a couple of developers in the room there. That's the type of investment that you have to create. And those type of investments pay off big time, long term, and for security. Thanks, Councilwoman.
Thank you.
I have a quick comment, and unlike sales, it's actually going to be a quick comment.
Yeah, well, mine wasn't quick. Did I say it was
Yeah.
quick? I did? Well, quick for me. I'm
It's
Italian,
okay.
what do you expect?
No, but it was well taken. So I'm supportive of this, and this is it's great to have a downtown park like Hance Park. In fact, we have a few of these spaces. Miss Diane Barker isn't here to speak publicly, but if she were, I think we would all agree that we would hear her talk about Fit Phoenix and Meet Me Downtown, and the fact that on that, for those who haven't done it, it's a 5K, 3.1 miles of a walk or run, whatever each of us are comfortable with, but it hits these open spaces in downtown. Hance is definitely important to the entire city. So I am absolutely supportive of this. I want to say that I'm supportive of green space, period, in our city. It's about 500 square miles. It is the 6th largest city in the country. Very soon it'll be the 5th. I think one day in the near future it'll be the 3rd largest city in the country. And we have to do the best we can to continue while moving our community forward, embracing progress. We have to continue to protect our green space. And because I can think of a couple of places in my district that is not necessarily downtown. I think of Palo Verde as an example, which is part of the conversation here soon. What we do with that green space. Do we preserve it as a golf course? Do we turn it into a park? I mean, a lot of that is going to have to come to the community, but I'm an advocate for this open green space, regardless of which council district or where we are talking about in the city. We're obviously talking about this. It's on the agenda. I'm very excited about this for Hans Park, and I'm very supportive.
So, thank you very much. What I will have to say is that this is impressive. It's a great item to look for the future and be able to build and be a part of. All of us will be a part of it. It doesn't matter, for me, it doesn't matter which district we represent the city. And we represent everyone within our city. And nationally, we represent people too. And so this is to me, this is very exciting. And exciting for me because I can be part of at the beginning stages of building. And I may not be here, we're at the final end, but I can at least say I was part of it. And so I think that's what we're all trying to express. And so really appreciate the great efforts that Larry and that Phoenix Community Alliance and Hans, what is it? Park Conservancy and the city working together to make this vision happen. And really, I think it's going to be exciting. The other piece is that I think, Sal, we all like each other.
I know,
And so it's just me just bantering back with you, but I just want to say we all like each other on the council. We may not always agree, but that's okay. That's how people operate. That's how we work things through. I consider us a very unique family in the sense of we will disagree back and forth, but at the end of the day, we all respect each other. So that's just, I'm just
No, I
me
only
giving
said it
you-
because it was in his district.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why.
So we have a motion. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. I love it when you're here. Preserve, item number 8, preserve trail maintenance contract award.
Whose district is this in, so I can
I have no
be nice
clue.
about that.
All over.
Vice
ahead,
Mayor and members of the subcommittee. Today we're here to talk about a contract for trail maintenance and a beautiful picture that you just saw on the screen of our preserve area. As you know, we get quite a few visitors every year to our mountain parks, and because we were able to put counters in, we now know the exact number. Before we were guessing, but now we actually know. It's over 4 million in all of our mountain parks. Just at Camelback, we get nearly 300,000 visitors every year just from the Echo Canyon Trailhead. And there's 200 miles of trails. So there's a big need for us to make sure that we are able to maintain our trail system. This is a picture you can see of an eroded trail. This one's in South Mountain, so we have a need for maintenance. Not only for our designated trails to get them back into shape, but oftentimes people go off the trail and create their own little trails. And so we need to take some of those out of service and really make them back to the trails that we want people to be on. It's safer, and it's also good for the environmental concerns that we have. The preserve maintenance contract will do all general maintenance on the trail. We also have folks, the stewards that will help them, but we're going to make our trails sustainable and also easy to maintain. It might require some rerouting of trails. We've just finished a master plan in South Mountain for the trails themselves, and that will be coming next month to you after it goes to the Parks and Recreation Board. But that's part of this plan as well. They'll also supply and install any kind of signage, trail posts. One of the complaints that we get often is that the signs are not easily found or followed, able to be followed. This will help us with that because we'll be able to put more posts in, and if there are needs for additional trail counters, we'll be able to put those in as well. The anticipated duration of this particular contract is 3 years with 2 options of 1 year each to extend. Over the course of time, it'll be $3.5 million, but not to exceed $700,000 annually. And the funding is available through the 40% of the Phoenix Parks and Preserve Initiative funds. So this is the timeline. In November, we put the RFP out, and we solicited for this. We had the 3 bidders, and today we're here at the subcommittee, and April 5th it will go to the council for full approval. I can never say the name. Okanagan Trail Construction is the group that we have worked with in the past, and they were actually the group that the panel selected, and they have done a really good job for us. So with that, I will ask you to please approve for moving forward the bid for the Okanagan Trail Construction Group.
Any questions? Councilman Noakowski.
I don't know if there's questions. I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead.
I can make a motion to approve staff's recommendation on item number 8.
Second.
Any comments? No? Yeah? Go
Only
ahead.
because I like Zelda, Kate, Michael, myself. So these are our trails.
Jim Waring,
Jim Waring, too. So I want to make sure I include
sorry.
everyone.
You notice our names are not in
That's
that?
okay.
No, because you don't have any of these. So I left you out on purpose on that one, only because it's not part of this one. But if I could, on the trails, I think it's critical for the redo, especially the signage. And people that know, I hike quite a bit, or probably not as much as I should. But even I, who've been in these trail systems for years, I'll get lost if I'm not paying attention because of what's happened. It's just the poor, the markings. And I can see where someone out of state, especially when they see one map, everything's on your phone now. I can look it up and figure out where I'm at. But you can also, if you have it properly, done, especially for older people like myself, who are not as adept as using their cell phones, and being able to find out where they're at, it's a really good step to do that, especially as you go further west, as you get closer to some of the other districts, because they're not as heavily traveled yet as some of the ones on the east. If we could do that. The other is, there's a trail, I've been wanting to mention this and mention it now, but there's a trail east of Corona Loma. People are using it all the time. It's obviously it's a marked trail. Looks like it is. I've been asked whether it's an open trail or not. I've been telling people I think it is. People are on it quite a bit. If it's not open, I'd like to know why that trail should be open. It's a very challenging trail in South Mountain. The other is on Choya, and I want to thank you for all the work that you put on Choya. It's been amazing. I know we're looking at redesigning the trailhead and moving it onto Invergordon where it should be. The Phoenician is willing to donate the bathroom there. That opens up that door there. So I'd like us to see what we can do to put that together. The other part of it is, and I've already reached out to Marie Sims, who's a state legislator who was on the Paradise Valley School Board. We've got to do something with the parking there. And maybe work with the town of Paradise Valley. If Councilman Stanton, there's a Councilman Stanton out there too. But he and I have known each other. I guess we're going to try and find a way to connect. If you guys can find a way to do that. One time Paradise Valley was talking about even buying some land in that area and putting parking for trails there. I don't know if that's still on the table or not. This is before your time. And I don't know what happened there, but it kind of fell apart. That's something we should be doing. And if we can also look to see if there's any type of state funding for that on that trail system, see if there's any monies available from the state to be able to, upgrade that trail and move it.
Councilman DeCiccio, we will certainly work with the developer.
Yeah, if we could too, on the Corona, the one that's east, that's interesting because it's not marked at all. I mean, I know the trails. All you have to do is look on your phone. Shows you where everything is. But I can see where someone out of state could get on that thing and get lost.
Okay, we will look at that as well.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Go ahead, and then I have Jerry Van Gass.
I'll go ahead and do Jerry first.
Jerry?
Thank you, council people. Jerry Van Gass. I met with, I mentioned at the last meeting, Subco, that, you don't buy a Porsche and then not maintain it. And we've put all this money into Echo Canyon rehab, and we're going to do the same thing over at Piestewa. As far as the maintenance, though, the hikers out there have not seen anybody, from Okanagan up on Echo since last summer, August, when we had that big rain. In fact, there's parts that are, still need repair, and same over on Piestewa. My concern is, and I talked to Alonzo, a month ago, that to bring out a trail expert, because I'm pretty, know the National Park Service real well, and have one of their trail experts, because the Grand Canyon is pretty much similar to what our environment is and take a look at it. Because on Echo Canyon, the berms are building up with that much traffic. And I don't want to look like the sunken road at Antietam where all you see is a head going along. But I mean, the summer is when to do this kind of maintenance. You can't do it now with all these people out there. But, I'd like to see some more, and so would all the hikers, some transparency, because they don't see Okanagan out there. It's their money. It's 3PI money. So they'd like to see that. And, I'd like to get an analysis of the trails from National Park Service. And they said they'd do it for nothing, so I can't beat that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to thank the parks for everything they do out there on the trails. The visiting center in South Mountain is just incredible. If you have children, you should just go check that out. And they actually have a trail that is actually paved for people that have disabilities. And if you happen to be in a wheelchair, you can actually have a trail for yourselves. And if you have small ones, the trail is excellent for small kids. But what's so amazing about it is our rangers, how they take time to explain to children the different plants and different types of animals that are out there in the desert. And it's the people that really care. It's those servant leaders that we have working for the parks and for the mountain preserves. So I just really want to thank all those individuals, because you can tell that they have a passion, and it's sort of a mission that they have to educate, especially young people and families. So the trails aren't just for individuals that want to go out there hiking, but it's also to bring out your family and your kids, to educate them on what's out there, desert plants and the animals too. So thank you for those programs.
Thank you. I hope we look into what Jerry's suggestion is with the National Forest. Is it forest? Parks. Yeah.
Vice Mayor, members of the subcommittee, we will definitely take any help we can get.
Okay. Do we need an action?
Yes,
We did it, right? We
have
have an
to vote.
action. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion passes. Now, item 9, Phoenix Parks and Preserves Initiative Oversight Committee update. Inger.
Vice Mayor and members of the subcommittee, today we are coming to give you an update on the Oversight Committee for the Phoenix Parks Preserve Initiative, as requested, I think, at the last meeting. In your packet, you have a packet of letters that have been communicated back and forth between some lawyers, Stoops, Tom Stoops, get the right names here, and Tim Hogan, and then the city attorneys have responded as well. The packet that you have in front of you is the packet that I prepared for you. I believe Jerry might have a packet for you as well that is similar, but has the most recent letter that we received yesterday in response to our letter. With that, I will go through, as you know, in 2000, May of 2000, the City Council adopted an ordinance that established the Oversight Committee and set the various terms of office, the purpose, the powers, and the duties. Then it was extended in 2008 for 30 more years. A little bit of the funding was reversed. It was 60% for mountain parks and preserves, and then it was 40% for the community parks, regional parks. So the numbers switched in the new language, and so now we're at 60% for the regional, community, and neighborhood parks, and 40% for mountain parks and preserves. The authorities that the Oversight Committee has is once a year they review the expenditures, and they have a formal forum where people can come and provide their feedback. It is 5 volunteers that are City of Phoenix residents. They also have the opportunity and ability to consult with the Parks and Recreation Board, Citizens Bond Committee, and advise the City Council on the 3PI program. And again, like I said, they annually review the expenditures based on the 1999 ballot. Currently, we have 2 vacancies. One of those vacancies is required to be a Parks and Recreation Board member. Roger Peck, as you heard at last meeting, decided he did not want to be on the board anymore, and he asked to be withdrawn. And he has recommended that Sarah Porter be considered, so we've given that information to the mayor's office, who is the one who makes those appointments. Between April of 16 and February of 2017, We have met 5 times with tours and various meetings at the request of Tom Chapman, who is the chairperson. And at the February 10th meeting, which was our last meeting, the committee approved the annual attestation by a vote of 2 to 1. Those documents are also in the packet that I provided for you that was at your seat. And so with that, I will answer any questions or whatever your pleasure would be.
Thank you. I have a card from Jerry Van Gass, so I will take the card first.
Thank you again. It's pretty simple. I only have one question. I don't know if you got a copy of the Proposition A from 2008, but it says will be subject to an annual public audit. We filed suit 3 years ago because we knew we weren't getting all the requested records. 3PI money pays Grant Thornton, prior to that Larson, public accounting firm, for this audit of 3PI money. And yet, since the inception of 3PI, Parks and Preserve Initiative, voted on by 83% of the people, approved it. That audit has never been shown until we won that suit to the Oversight Committee. We're paying for it, and yet it was withheld from them. And they were given a list of expenditures, which, as a standalone document, tell you nothing. There's no beginning balance, there's no ending balance. For the first 2 years of the golf course fund withdrawals from the fund, they were never showed because they called them a transfer. Nobody on that oversight committee ever saw those. And yet, our legal department says the Oversight Committee has no fiduciary responsibility to seek repayment, even though the council voted 8-0 to repay that, quote, loan. On the face of it, the Oversight Committee was totally hamstrung by not having that audit. And to me, that's defrauding the public that voted for this public initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Any questions? Councilman DeCiccio?
I do. This all came up around 2010, and really it's because I had asked for information on it because we had issues with some of my golf courses in my district. And that's how we found out about this deficit that was in there at the time. I think it was 23 million. I forgot how much it was. It was only because it was your predecessor, Jim Burke. He and I sat down, and I said, well, what's going on with these funds? And I said that one time this was set up this way. And then that's when he came back and said, well, we do have there was a deficit in there. That's how this whole thing came about. It all started back around 2010 when Jim and I had that conversation. And then that's when it's like, well, how's it going to be repaid? What's going to happen? It's now 2017. We still don't have a plan for that. And I understand what happened back then in order to take the monies out because we were having financial difficulty. We've kind of passed part of that so far. There are a couple things. One, I'd like to have it in writing, so that way it's done in writing that way. But I would like to know why the public shouldn't be able to have access to the complete audit, if that's true. That's the complete audit.
Councilman DeCiccio, Vice Mayor Pastor, and the rest of the subcommittee, if I may, they have access to the CAFR, which is really the audit. And I think even, Jerry can correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but even Jerry's lawyer, who he's brought a couple of times, indicated that the CAFR actually was better than the attestation. The attestation was actually just an additional coverage. So what we have started to do now is we give the page, the CAFR, which you have in your documents, it's Exhibit D14.
No, I haven't seen that.
So it's D14. It's in the CAFR, which is the city's audit, and the attestation is the second layer of that. And I think I recall even at one of these meetings that Tom Stoops specifically said the CAFR was really the more important of the two. So there is an audit done, and now we are sharing that with the Oversight Committee, which we had not done previously.
Well, let me ask you, is there any information that's being withheld?
Not
That
that
if they
I,
ask for it, that they should be able to get access to all information?
so Vice Mayor and Councilman DeCiccio, almost monthly, we have a public records request from Jerry Van Gass and Tim Sorokowski, and every month we provide them information. So when they ask us a question, we do provide information.
The question was, there's nothing being withheld?
I
At
am
all?
not aware of anything being
Okay.
withheld.
Okay.
I believe we are as transparent.
Okay. As long as if they ask for something, they get exactly what they're asking for. That's what I care about. The second part of it is, you know, even though I believe I was one of the people that voted to allow this to happen, it was done because of financial difficulty. There was always the belief that it was going to get paid back. Not only the belief, there was an understanding of that. I believe it was in 2015 or 14 or whatever it was that we voted on this. I remember it clearly. At the time, I think it was Mr. Cavazos was here. He came to me and said, Sal, well, we're going to pay this back. He had that conversation with me. I think it's a very fair request, especially since it was done under the circumstances that I don't believe were completely on our side on this. And it shouldn't have been done that way, but it was done because of financial difficulty. I got it. But it's very fair for the public to be expected to see some sort of timeline. When are we going to have a timeline in place?
Vice Mayor Pastor and Councilman DeCiccio, we are working with management to try to figure out how we can do that. You know, several options are possible, but we have to work through what is realistic so that we don't put the Parks Department in a situation where we're having to cut other things.
No,
So we're working through that.
Not looking to do that.
Yeah.
But that's why I think after 4 or 5 years, putting a timeline together should be a very normal request.
Absolutely. We're hoping.
Because that's what we voted on.
Yeah, we're hoping to put the first dent in it with 2 parcels of property that we're selling.
Yeah.
So if that's the pleasure of the council, that's our first goal to get that and make that happen.
It's just a payback is all it is. I mean, just, even if it takes several years or multiple years to do that, we should at least put something together. And that shows people a level of consistency.
We're
Again, I know how this came down. I was here when it came down, the conversations I had back in 2010. I don't believe everybody was here at the time. It was done prior to some other members here. But I know what was done. I know why it was done. I also know that there was a clear understanding that this was to be paid back over time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
When you say working with management,
City manager.
city manager, okay, I just wanted to clear that up. Okay. Is there any other questions? No? Councilman Nowakowski.
So during our last meeting, we talked about a strategic plan for golf courses that we are running. Are we doing that, or are we coming up with some type of a plans for the future?
Vice Mayor Pastor and Councilman Nowakowski, yes, indeed. It'll take a few months for us to put something together, but we are looking at any other opportunities, whether it be with food and beverage or even the golf courses themselves. But we're looking through those things, yes.
Alrighty, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Well, thank you, Inger. Appreciate it. I have no call to the public. Any future agenda items? Anyone? No one? Councilman Nowakowski?
My kids actually use the parks for their softball, baseball, football, soccer, and all their different teams that they play with. And one of the things that I notice is the hours that our staff works. Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock, staff's gone, and about 6 o'clock is when all the leagues start to use our parks, our football, soccer fields, and baseball fields, and softball fields. And sometimes we have a rover that handles a handful or a dozen different parks, and that person has to deal with incidents or things that might be going on in a park, and it holds that person up, and maybe there's a delay of a half hour or so to open restrooms or turn on lights and stuff, and it affects a lot of people. Individuals don't understand that we actually do rent out our soccer fields, baseball fields. So when there's people playing on the soccer field and you have a team that reserved it, then you need to have somebody out there to kind of resolve the situation. So we see a lot of that going on, and we get a lot of calls from our office. So I was just wondering, is there a reason why we don't have, why we have 9 to 5, or can we look into the future of maybe having different hours where the park is being used, that we can actually have staff members working that time? I understand the maintenance part of it would be, I understand maintenance individuals should be during 9 to 5 where people aren't using the park that much, but maybe in the evening if we have our directors and staff overview. Well, that might be a future agenda item that you can bring back.
We certainly
and-
can look at that.
And look at different options. And
On that item, I would like to, as we look at that future agenda item, I would like to know how many people are at, I guess across the city, of how many people are operating those parks and how many are operating at night. Because I had this discussion a while back, and I really need to look in positions like the parks and human services. We really need to think at looking at different hours, scheduled hours of employees, and when they enter and when they not enter. You know, I guess what I'm talking about is some employees, their shift starts at noon, ends at 9, or however the shift starts. But I think we need to get more creative now with the constraints that we have, along with looking at shifting patterns of working.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I think
Hours.
Inger and her team can come and share with you the current staffing plan, how that affects operating hours of the park, and get your feedback and advice.
Okay, thank you.